Welcome, everybody. It's so good to see all of you. Welcome to the Joy Talk Show, where we're talking about real life, real change, and joy that lasts. I'm your host today. I am Dr. Pam George, and today we're diving into something that might sound so simple, but it's one of the most powerful practices that can transform your heart, your relationship, and even your brain. It's gratitude. Gratitude isn't just saying thank you, it's a mindset, it's a muscle, it's a mirror. It shows us how we see the world and who we believe is in control of our story. And today we have joining with us Cynthia, all the way from Minnesota. Cynthia is an amazing woman who owns a nonprofit. Cynthia, I would love for you to introduce yourself to the Joy Talk Show.
Oh, thank you, Pam. Always excited to be here. I love this group of ladies. It is an honor and a blessing to be part of this team. Just as a misnomer, we don't own nonprofits, we run
Okay,
them. So,
thank
no,
you.
we would love to own them. I think that is one of the beautiful things. Honestly, one of my steps in humility and gratitude is being part of a nonprofit organization because everything I do has to go outward. And anything I buy, purchase, build, or create is owned by the nonprofit. And if that ever dissolves, it has to be handed off to a similar nonprofit. And I love that. It's really about community. So it keeps you integrous. It keeps you above that self-satisfying desire to get your own gain or build your own ego. So it's really
Yeah,
a fun opportunity to be part
yeah.
of a nonprofit in that way. And then I also do somatic coaching and somatic healing through hands-on work. I live with my husband and one of my sons, although he is itching to get out because he's 20. And I have a cat named Smokey, and my husband has adopted the bunnies in the backyard and started feeding them. And I'm learning to be incredibly grateful about that. But that's who I
Great.
am.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing, and thank you for telling us what a nonprofit is. Because whenever you talk about it, you own it and it's your heart. So I appreciate you clarifying who really owns the nonprofit. It's the people you serve. So thank you. And then we are coming in from Indiana. We have Tracy. Tracy is an author. Tracy, would you like to tell us a little bit about you and your part in the Joy Talk Show?
Yeah, in the Joy Talk show. Well, actually, I'll start with me first. I live in Indiana with my husband, and I also have a cat. Her name is America, and she's my joy, and she's so sweet. And in the Joy Talk show, I'm the one who does the editing of the podcast, and I love to do that. And so that's who I am.
That's awesome. This podcast would not be possible without Tracy's talent. So thank you for joining us and your wisdom. And now we go to the West Coast and we have Cindy from San Diego. Tell us all about yourself.
Hi, I'm Cindy Sheridan. I live in San Diego, California. I'm super excited to be here to talk about gratitude. I am
Yeah.
grateful to talk about gratitude today. So, I do have a full-time job, but on the weekends and sometimes in the evenings, I do stand-up comedy. And so we're excited to have you here. Thank you, Pam. Make sure everybody has their coffee cup because we're going to fill you up.
Yeah, we are. All
You
right.
introduce that yourself to everyone too?
For sure. Thank you. As you can see, Cynthia is the one who keeps me on track. All right. Thank you. I'm Pam George, and I'm an author of a book, Sparkle. So I did a lot of deep dive into this whole concept of joy and the connection of joy and our brain, and finding out that the definition of joy is glad to be with you. And we want to spread connection and joy to all of you. And that's one of the reasons that we have this podcast. We bring in topics every month, it's a monthly topic. And this month, we are all thinking about gratitude as Thanksgiving. If you're watching this in the United States, it's just around the corner. I know if you are in Canada, you guys just had it, but we are going to talk about gratitude. So before we begin, I want us to take a moment to think about one thing, big or small, that you're grateful for today. Maybe it's a breath. Maybe it's a person. Maybe it's a moment of peace. And I want you to hold that thought as we dive in. So we're going to start with just going around and sharing about what does gratitude mean to you today personally. Who'd like to take that?
I'll start. Oh, we have to start. Interestingly enough, in the science behind it, and we have a little similarity in how we think and act. And so we may have overlap and talk, which is really fun. But one of the interesting things about gratitude is how it can change your heart literally. Like when they study a person who has practiced gratitude on a regular basis, they've found improved heart health. And as a body worker, like my background in massage, one of the cool things about the human touch and massage is that it can reduce blood pressure and increase cardiovascular health and help your body come back to center. And when I added in the practice of coaching and learning more about how the mind, I've always been fascinated with the mind and how our emotions play a role in how we live our lives and how our health is. I got really excited about how the brain and the heart are connected. And then you start reading about studies, like people have taken longitudinal studies of how the heart changes with practice of gratitude. And so for me, when I think about how impactful gratitude is, it literally can center around life or death. No, it's not a magic pill. You're not gonna be like, oh, it's gonna automatically heal your heart to have more gratitude. But it can improve your health and it can be a game changer in how you live your life. So it is so impactful to me to be reminded of the privilege. Like when you said, think of that one thing, I was thinking technology. Right now, it's so awesome. I'm in my own home. I don't have to go to a studio, although that'd be fun. But I don't have to leave my home. I just have to set the clock, show up, do this recording, and then hand it over to Tracy, who edits and polishes and makes it amazing. That is an incredible gift not everyone has full access to. And I'm super grateful that I do. It's just a powerful, powerful practice to continually find the things in life that you can be grateful for, and we have an abundance of them.
I love that. Thank you for sharing about the impact of gratitude on our heart. And I know what I found is gratitude literally rewires our brain and it lowers stress hormones. So thank you for sharing that. I wanted to ask Cindy, have you ever found it hard to be grateful? And would you like to share about that?
Yes, that's a really good question. There was a time in my life where, I am a widow. I lost my husband just over 7 years ago, unexpectedly after an accident. And I could really feel bitterness and anger and all the feelings you have with grief. It was really hard to feel grateful at that time. But one thing that stood out for me that I focused on was my kids, my family around me, and my community of friends and community from my church. I was so grateful, and I'm so grateful that we have a good God. God just has shown up so much since then, and just having a grateful heart for those around me really did my heart good because I had a really hard time trying to continue to walk with God, and they helped me walk again and walk right back into believing that God is good and God is still good and He has good things for me despite what happened.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I know that Cynthia and I talked about the research behind gratitude, and we can understand it in our mind. Like, yeah, gratitude will help my heart get healthy. gratitude reduces my stress hormones. But when we are hit with a life circumstance that is so painful that it's our focus shifts and we can really focus and really feel like, what can I be grateful for at this time? And I appreciate you sharing how you focused on allowing other people to carry you through this time. And that going back to the whole definition of joy, joy is glad to be with you. And we are created not to be alone. And so when we allow other people to grieve with us, we can look back and kind of be grateful even for such a hard time and a hard moment in our life. So thank you so much for sharing that. I wanted to just put out this question because I hear it a lot. I know that we are in a culture that talks a lot about positivity and be positive. It almost sounds like you're forcing positivity. So, what is the difference, if anyone want to take this question, between forced positivity or authentic gratitude that rewires our brain or helps our heart get healthier? Anyone have any thoughts on that?
So you're talking about faking it till you make it, that sort of
Yeah,
positivity?
you've heard that saying.
I actually faithed it till I made it. That's one way I looked
Yeah,
at focusing more on gratitude than just being positive.
yeah. And I appreciate you sharing that. When I think about just the whole concept of worship, I think about, yeah, we can have this praise times and we can have times where we are grateful and thankful. But I also see in the Psalms and in the writings when people went through grief, there was a worship that was titled Lament and a lot of writing, journaling, poetry. And I know that Tracy has written a whole book about your untethered voice. And would you like to share about the whole concept of poetry and how that connects with gratitude?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I put some poems in my book. I love to write poetry, and I also host community poems. So I was thinking about how we can use poetry to express gratitude. There's so many different ways you could use it. You could make joyful, playful poems expressing gratitude, and you could also use that to write thank yous to people, or in a journaling fashion, write about what you're grateful for, just using poetry. It's a creative mechanism that engages even more of our thinking and creativity skills, and it can help us to really think even deeper about our gratitude. And so I really enjoy the thought of using poetry for gratitude.
Yeah, I love that. I love that we can process all the stuff that goes on in our hearts through writing, through poetry, through creative means. And I love when she puts out a sentence and she asks people to add to it and just have a collective way of processing a topic or something that she starts a prompt out of. So thank you, Tracy, for bringing poetry into the world and then showing us that's another way we can show gratitude even to loved ones this month, writing a poem, letting other people know what we're thinking about. So thank you for that. I wanted to move towards gratitude in relationships and talk a little bit about that because we're going to be spending time with loved ones this month. So, how do you think expressing gratitude strengthens marriages, friendships, or family life? Any thoughts on that?
Oh, that's a good question.
No, I was actually still thinking about Tracy's creativity and poetry and that gratitude. And Tracy also has an affinity for song and helping people pull their songs out of themselves.
Mhm.
And I think so much of song is poetry, just adding the layer of music. And that reminds me of how important all of our senses are within the expression of gratitude, like creating that whole environment. And when I think about Thanksgiving, I live in Minnesota. We're very known for the Dakotas of the indigenous tribe that is here. And there is just this gift and this beauty of the land that we live in. And that combination of coming together as family, despite any problems that we've had in the past, and having all of the smells and the music in the background and the laughter and the sound, and really then being able to tell a story afterwards around that is very poetic. And so it's like, I just know when Tracy does do those community poems, she's always very thoughtful about that. What can we pull out of one another in these community poems? So I didn't know if Tracy wanted to add more to that about storytelling and music and that flow of seasons.
Mm. I think you did a beautiful job.
So
You know what I
sweet.
was You know what I was thinking while we've been having this conversation is that what I am grateful for as far as friendships, relationships, is that we're each unique. We each have our own unique gifts. Like Tracy has this amazing gift to edit and do poetry. And one thing I think, Pam, that we can be grateful for in relationships, in marriage, in friendships, that everybody has a unique gift that helps each other.
Yeah,
I love
thank
that.
you.
And you specialize in the communication of marriage and teach teachers as well while you're transitioning, but teach parents and teachers how to do relationships well, like the underpinnings of it. So I think if anybody can add value to talking about relationships and marriage, you would probably be the one. At least now I can think of
Well,
it.
thank you. Thank you, Cynthia. I think I have to be really honest. I know a lot of people, ever since I was a kid, I've heard that scripture, be thankful always. I've heard so many morning routines like start your day with three things to be grateful for. And it was great. And I knew that people say that's important, so I would do it. But it didn't really transform my heart and my mind or connect me to people till I really understood what you're talking about using all our senses in gratitude. So, in my book, there's a whole chapter on appreciation and the research behind appreciation, which can be connected to gratitude. And so, the way that I do gratitude now in the morning is sitting down. The first thing that I do in my morning routine is take a moment of the day before that I am so grateful for. I literally like, what did I feel? What did I think? What was the surroundings like? What about that gave me joy? And really sitting and meditating about that. And Cynthia was talking about marriage, even in our marriages, every night before we go to bed, just having an appreciation talk with my husband, like, what about your day that you really enjoyed? And how can we be grateful for that? How can we delight in those? When, like today, my daughter-in-law called and I got a chance to talk to my grandson. He is 3 months, so he's obviously not talking back to me, but I get to talk to him. And you feel this joy, and I'm going to store that in my body so that when those times, like Cindy said, those times of grief will come. But then if we have a reservoir of grateful moments, not just cognitively in our head that we've written, which is good. I'm not saying not do that, but it's really helped me to embody it in my body so that my body remembers it. So that is something that I want to just give to our audience, like taking our gratitude practices even deeper and starting the day and ending the day just enjoying the good things, even if it's just the breath that we had. Or sometimes there's hard things to happening in our life. And like what Cindy was talking about, she chose to focus on the people around her because we can focus, our brains are trained to focus on fear and focus on survival and focus on what's going to happen 10 years from now and miss the moment that we have today. So I think that's super important.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking about your question, Pam, that you'd asked how gratitude enhances relationships, friends, family. I was thought about how it can just encourage someone, like if they're feeling down, you'd express, oh, thank you for such and such. It can really pick them up. And then when we express gratitude, it also enhances the bond between the two people.
Yeah. Do you guys have any stories in mind where someone really appreciated you or you appreciated someone and that gave you joy?
I had a stranger. I thought I was very grateful. And this came from a stranger. I had to put a quart of oil in my car. And so I was outside, I think AutoZone or one of those auto shops. And I had my hood open and I'm in my work clothes and I'm putting this oil into my car. And a stranger comes up and hands me some napkins, just hands me napkins. And I was like, wow, thank you. And he went on his way. And I didn't realize how much I needed those napkins until I was done putting the oil in my car and my hands were filthy. But sometimes you can be grateful for unexpected things from strangers. Just was really cool how he noticed my predicament and knew exactly what I might need when I was done and brought me some napkins for my hands. But I was very grateful. So I thought that was kind of
Love that.
and
Yeah.
this just happened, I think it was like a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
That's,
have
that's
a,
so beautiful. Yeah. Go ahead,
I
Cynthia.
had an event that when when I was serving, I was waitressing for many years. As a practice of my own faith, I
Mm.
would just in prayer ask God if there was somebody who I was to bless that day that I would buy their food. And it was really fun because I would buy their food and just like, somebody bought your food and just see their joy. It was like kind of like cheat code on when you give a gift because I got to see them be really grateful. Well, this one day, this woman it was very quiet. So it was kind of obvious that I would be buying the food, but she was talking about she was in town for some health issues, so she had to travel. And they were just eating out because that was their only choice. And I really felt led to buy her lunch. And I'm trying to think back. I don't think at that time I'd heard the story of why she was in town. But what happened was I bought the lunch and she was like in near tears and she's like, I cannot believe you did this, really grateful, which just feels great. They came back that afternoon with one of I don't remember what they're called, but they're like these beige prayer angels. They were very famous like in the 90s. They're like, yeah. Yep, those
The wood carved ones.
yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
So she got one that said thank you. And
Mm.
it was just this beautiful gift. And she wrote this amazing thank you note about how that act of kindness that I did was super impactful because of her circumstances. And I think it's moments like that, like Cindy said, she's just doing her thing. And somebody noticed she doesn't have anything to wipe her hands with. And look how beautiful she looks in her nice, clean clothes. And let me bring her some napkins. And just handed them off and moved along. Like just kept going with life. And that ripple effect of gratitude, I think, is a super impactful message in like we get to be grateful for what happens to us, but we also get to do something that someone can be grateful for.
Love
Right.
that. Thank
That's
you for
good.
sharing that.
Yeah, one thing that struck me about Cindy's story is how that person just went on, but to Cindy, that circumstance, that incident still stays with her. And so that story is still in her head and still working in her heart. And you can see the joy.
Yeah.
And that's exactly the definition of joy. Someone saw you and someone saw your need and met it. I remember driving down from Canada and we had a rental car and we got a flat tire. We pulled out on the streets and it was like one of those new cars that we didn't even know how to change the tire. And we're trying to get the tire out. And this guy just randomly pulls up and he said, I have the same car. It was a truck actually. I have the same truck. And let me just change your tire for you. This is really tricky and it's really hard, and you need a special tool. And he had the tool and he changed it. And I'm telling you the story because it's still in my heart and it fills me with gratitude. And so, gratitude comes from what we notice, and we might see a need, and you might think, should I just go or should I meet that need? And when you do that, you're spreading gratitude, you're spreading joy. So, thank you for sharing your stories. That is amazing. So before we land this plane, do you have any other thoughts about gratitude? Anything that can help our audience? Like if someone listening today is just feeling stuck, what is one small gratitude practice you recommend they start with? Any thoughts?
I do have a story about that. I may have told it here, but we'll tell it again.
But stories are always meant to be told again.
Okay, great. I love that. We'll keep telling them. There was a period in my life where getting up was very challenging, facing the day was very challenging, and I was going through a coaching program with someone, and she taught on being grateful. And there was a few techniques, and I'll tell you two of them. One was to wake up and just say the word grateful, grateful, grateful. Just say the word grateful 3 times. No matter what, before the thoughts started pulling in and taking hold, just grateful, grateful, grateful. And just hang on to that and get out of bed. Like say it and get up and go. And it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to feel it right away. And we talked about that in the very beginning. The practice is what changes the heart rhythm. The practice is what rewires the brain. The practice is what lowers your blood pressure and brings you back to homeostasis. So practice, practice, practice. So just repetition. But the other thing, which was really impactful, was to take a notebook and a pen and walk around the house and write down everything you are grateful for. Every single thing that you're grateful for. And I have a double blessing of a grateful. My dear friend Tracy, her head is on. She has a head. She has a head. I told Tracy that by the time this is gone, then I'd better have my book out to the world. So I do try to use this notepad, but I love that it's here. She made this for me because she's super creative and kind and loving and generous. And so not only do I have this here on my desk all the time, and I want to use it faster, so I get my book out, but every single sheet of this block, I should write down that I am grateful for. It kind of pushes you into gratitude fast because it's like, I'm not going to count how many are left. But if I'm having a bad day, maybe that's not such a bad thing. I'm grateful that I have a sheet of paper that was given to me with love again and again and again. So that's my advice, is just practice it.
Well, I'll tell you a little bit more about those sheets of paper. Is I can praise Cynthia, put in some great words about Cynthia is, as she said, that she does coaching. And so I enrolled with some coaching with her. And after we got done, my heart was so blessed from her coaching that I just wanted to do a little something. So sent her those cubes, ordered them, and had them made. And I'm just so grateful for Cynthia.
Appreciate that. Appreciate that. Beautiful. All right. Thank you for sharing. Any other thoughts before we land this plane? All right. I am just going to review what we talked about first. I love what you all shared. I loved what you brought in, Cindy, how gratitude doesn't erase pain, but it reframes it. And when we slow down and notice God's goodness, even in the small things, we stop living from scarcity and start living from abundance. Because, like Cynthia said, we have an abundance of things that we're grateful for. I remember when I was a missionary and feeling really down, my mentor actually told me to do that exercise, to go around your house and write down the things you have and not focus on the things that I didn't have. And at that time, I was living in a place where I didn't have power, and I didn't have a washing machine, and I didn't have a dishwasher. And I was focused on all of that versus I have a roof over my head. I have a bed to lie down. I have my husband with me. I have children who are healthy. And as I started writing, I was like, wow, I have so many things to be grateful for. So I really encourage our participants or whoever's listening to be able to take that to heart. And even if it's a small practice, I know Cynthia said before you get out of bed, say gratitude, gratitude, gratitude. One of the things that I've learned is sitting down, and when you repeat something, your brain is listening. So for me, I have to write down on my paper, thank you, 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 thank you. And by the time, because I have an anxious brain, I have an anxious attachment style, so I wake up anxious. So these practices literally rewire my brain to really get that joy back. So we've talked about really verbalizing gratitude. We talked about looking and noticing other people's needs and meeting that. So filling their hearts with gratitude. We talked about writing poetry, and especially in those moments in our life where life is difficult, really having a process to be able to express those emotions and beautiful songs that may come out to bless others like Tracy does. And I also want to add in a deeper way to practice gratitude is through an appreciation writing. And what I do is when you think about that moment in your life that you're grateful, look at what do you hear in that moment? What do you see? What do you smell? What do you feel? Writing it all down so that it can be embodied in your body. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today for our Joy Talk Show. And we just want to wish you happy Thanksgiving. And we are so grateful for all of you. Bye-bye.
Yes. Thank you.
Every heart gets to be whole. Let the laughter find.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Joy Talk Show. We hope it inspired you to nurture joy-filled, meaningful connections in your life. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone who could use a little more joy today. We'd love to hear how this conversation touched you. Reach out anytime at joytalkshowpodcast@gmail.com or visit joytalkshow.com. May your days be rich with meaningful connection. Until next time, keep filling your cup until we can fill it together.